Last week I posted a video that was titled, "If You're Not Where You Want to Be with Running, Watch This." And someone put this kind of interesting, almost argumentative comment. I didn't take it personal, but he made some points that I thought would be interesting to talk about because I've been thinking about this over, several years, but especially since this comment. And I have no issue with this guy. I think the comment was great. I like dialogue like this. And in that video, I talked about how if you're not where you're at, you need to take full responsibility. It's your fault that you're not where you're at. Whether that's like weight, you haven't lost all the weight you want, well, it's your fault, right? Or if you haven't ran a marathon yet, or you DNF'd, that's your fault. Or if you're injured, that's your fault. Or if you're doing successful, it's your fault, right? Like you have to take responsibility, and I feel that's where the truest power is. Like if you're like thinking things are outside of your control, I think that's damaging. And so I would rather take full responsibility for everything, even things that I actually had nothing to do with me, because it puts me in a mindset of, okay, I'm in the driver's seat. What do I want to do about this? And so I was in the video. I don't know if it was harsh, but I was definitely like, it's your fault. And I was talking to myself. I said in that video that it was not more, but it was for me just as much as it was for anyone watching. Like, it's my fault I'm not where I'm at, and it's my fault with the successes I've had as well. So his comment, or her, I can't remember, the comment basically said, you're right and you're wrong. Blaming yourself leads to negative self-talk and is unhealthy. It was a little bit longer, but it was roughly that. I'm paraphrasing. And I think that's a really good point, right? I think there's a semantic or something to be aware of with that. Because for me, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but generally, when I call myself out for something, I'm not like telling myself I'm fucked and there's nothing I can do and I'm a terrible person. That is not taking responsibility in my mind. That's just unnecessary. But, for example, we could take this example. If I cheat on my diet, that's my fault, right? I think we can agree. That's my fault. So when I call myself out and say, hey, that's my fault, take responsibility for that, that's great because it's awareness and taking responsibility and you're in the driver's seat, right? What I think happens to people, and this has happened to me and still does to this day, is they call themselves out and they take responsibility and then they say, and I'm a terrible person for it. Or it's super bad that I did this. Or I'm the worst. Or I'll never get better, right? Like you can end it or change the direction of that conversation in your head at, it's my fault. Because if you go, it's my fault and I'm terrible, of course that's negative self-talk. I would agree with that comment from that other video. If you say it's my fault, and what I like to do is say, well, where do I go from here? What's the next step? What do I need to do? If I can catch myself and ask those questions, that's productive. I don't think that's negative self-talk at all. If it's facts, not feelings, and I'm a big believer in this. I work in a business consulting company and in audiology, and I do sales and things like that. And we often say facts, not feelings. Like, look at the data. You may not like an employee, but if they're your highest performer, there's maybe a bunch of semantics or reasons for that, but look at the data. Or sometimes we'll see business owners that are pissed at one of their employees and their employees are hitting their numbers and goals. So it's like facts, not feelings, right? And so I'm a big believer in this when it comes to life in general. And the fact is, it's your fault. And it's not supposed to be a negative feeling. It's just this responsibility that I think, again, puts you in the driver's seat, like I've said. And so for me, do I still have times where I'm like, oh, that's my fault and I suck? Yes, but that's something that can be worked on and developed. I don't think taking responsibility and saying it's your fault immediately leads to negative self-talk. You have to have this awareness, right? So I think meditation is great. When you say, it's my fault, now what do I do about that? I find that incredibly empowering. I don't know about you. I don't think that's a negative conversation. I think it's realizing, hey, I missed that mark, and this is what I'm going to do about it, right? I don't see any negativity in that. It's just calling out as is and actually being productive and positive and moving forward in a direction that's better. And so I think that's the big differentiation. I don't think calling yourself out and taking responsibility for something that is 100% your fault, because it is, that's not negative. That's just the reality. What you do with that afterwards is where it gets negative and or positive. It gets productive or it gets damaging. And so it's really important to be aware of your thoughts, and that's why I love running and ultra running so much, because this has helped me continue to monitor and work on and grow this muscle and skill of being aware of what's going on in my own head. And so that's a really important part. Take responsibility, but don't tell yourself you suck. I mean, you can if that motivates you and gets you to do better. I know some people like that feedback. And I think I used to like that feedback, but I'm trying to get to this more loving place, I guess, and I'm probably far from it. I think I probably got a long way to go, but I'm seeing progress in the conversation in my head of not saying it's my fault and I'm stupid and I suck and I'll never be better. It's my fault, and how do I want to go about this, and what can I learn, and what resources do I have to overcome this or work on this, right? So I think that's a big differentiation. You have to be aware of your thoughts, and I think that's a big way to take responsibility and call yourself out without feeling as bad. And last thing I'll say, it's okay to feel a little bad, because that can get you to change, right? Like when you're depressed, that's showing you need to do something. When you're anxious, that's saying, I need to take care of this, or I need to get out of this situation, right? So feeling bad isn't bad per se. You definitely don't want it to be damaging and toxic, and that's, a fine line, I guess. But I think it's okay to feel a little bad if you're like, it's my fault, because you won't do it next, right? Like, if I'm like, when I was younger, wrestling with my brother and I hit him and he was crying and I felt bad, right? That made me change. It's not negative in my mind. Like, bad feelings aren't negative. They're just, like, it shouldn't even be bad feelings. These uncomfortable feelings or this uncomfortability, that can make you change as well. So it's just important to not be toxic, and that's why I appreciate that comment from that person on that video, because it's a good food for thought. We want to, I think, avoid this toxicity that's just damaging to ourselves and other people, right? Though it's not immediately negative if you call yourself out. It's just the reality. Facts, not feelings. If you like running tips, content, stuff like this, mindset stuff, I've been running for a while. I'm trying to help runners avoid injury, work through injury, get fitter faster, try and learn from the things that I've learned from mistakes and victories, and I hope to share that with people. So if you like stuff like that, consider hitting that subscribe button. If not, that's cool too. Whatever you want. I appreciate your time nonetheless, because I know it's super valuable, and you spent however many minutes this was with me. So I don't think lightly of that. So I hope to see you in another video at some point, or maybe on the trail sometime soon. Peace.